Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. For those that are new here, welcome. For those that are returning, welcome. My name is Shay, and a lot of what I share on my channel revolves around me having weight loss surgery and what my life looks like now about 2.5 years post-op. So since having weight loss surgery in March of 2022, I have lost over 100 pounds. I've had some regain in the process, which we'll talk about in a little bit. And the reason I wanted to start sharing my story was because when I was looking at the possibility of having weight loss surgery, where was the first place I went? YouTube, of course. And I wanted to see other people's stories and what their journeys were like. And so today, what I thought would be fun is answering the top questions that I get asked the most about my weight loss journey experience. So on my list of questions, I have either questions that people tend to ask me most often, questions that I had before learning more about weight loss surgery. So I hope this is helpful for you. Question number one, why did I decide to have weight loss surgery or bariatric surgery? Just so you know, I'll probably interchange those words back and forth, bariatric surgery, weight loss surgery. I'm talking about the same thing. The main reason I decided to have weight loss surgery was actually to conceive. I know that reason isn't the one that's most popular. Like obviously people want to have weight loss surgery to lose weight, and that was definitely a part of my decision, but really what it boiled down to is trying to conceive and have kids. A little bit about my story. I got diagnosed with PCOS or polycystic ovarian syndrome in December of 2020. Before that time, my husband and I had been trying to conceive at that point for about a couple years. After getting diagnosed with that is when I really got into learning more about nutrition, about cycles, and how my body worked to ultimately conceive. That's always been my goal. After trying a lot of different things to help manage my PCOS symptoms, some of which worked, some of which worked for a little bit, but then didn't work long term. I was just really frustrated that I wasn't having regular cycles, that I was still holding on to excess weight. And so it was actually my mother-in-law who had had the surgery who asked me, hey, have you seen the research about conception rates after having bariatric surgery? So I'll link another video where I kind of talk about my PCOS story related to that a little bit more here if you want to learn more. After looking at the research, it was really eye-opening to me going, wow, even if I were to get pregnant right now, this was before bariatric surgery, I would be at risk for so many other things that I would be kind of nervous to be pregnant because, I would be at a higher risk for gestational diabetes, for my body just hurting and not feeling good, and just other complications within pregnancy that I was like, I could keep trying to get pregnant knowing that I would be at a higher risk because of my weight, because of my PCOS, or I could get bariatric surgery while I'm still young, and hopefully that will help with conception. So that's ultimately why I decided to have weight loss surgery, was to help with that. But of course, I was really excited to lose excess weight, to get healthier, to feel better, to have my body move better. So those were obviously things that I considered as well, but really what made me seriously consider it was the research that supported conception and pregnancy rates after bariatric surgery. Another question I get a lot is, how old were you when you had surgery? So I was 27 years old when I had surgery, and I'm really, really grateful I had surgery earlier on in life. Every person's journey is different, and I don't want to make it sound like it's too late at any point or anything like that. But I know when I was looking into having bariatric surgery at that time, I didn't really see a lot of younger people sharing their stories of how it went for them. I saw people in like maybe their mid 40s and above who shared their stories, which keep sharing your stories because I love, hearing them and they're really helpful. But for me, wanting to have surgery for conception reasons, still being in my, 20s, it was really hard to find people that I related to. So luckily in the community that I'm a part of now, that bariatric space, there's tons of people who are in their 20s and early 30s who are sharing their story now, which is so cool. But yeah, I was 27. Where did I have my weight loss surgery? So initially I wanted to have it local. I live in Southern Oregon, and we do have a clinic here that I was trying to get into. When I was looking into getting into them, they had a lot of backlogged because of COVID at that time. And when I talked with them, they had said, you know, we might not be able to get you to even start the program until at least a year from now. And I was just devastated because I had done so much research. I knew what I was signing up for. I was ready to get it done. That's not everybody's journey and experience. I think programs that require more nutrition classes and psych evaluations, things like that, I think those can be really helpful for people. For me, I was in a space where I had done a lot of the education on the front end. I knew the basics of nutrition and how to nourish my body. I knew how to move my body. I knew how my hormones were affecting things. And it was simply that I just had excess weight that I could not get rid of. Not simply, it's more complex than that. After I talked with the clinic and I knew that it was going to be at least a year until I could start, and then it would be another year after that before I was actually probably going to get the surgery, I just was devastated. I did not want to have to wait that long. And so again, my mother-in-law, Amy, shout out, I'll link a video where she shares her story, but she had done a bunch of research for me and she found this place called Blossom Bariatrics, and they're based out of Las Vegas, Nevada, and they have a wonderful program. I did a whole video where I talked about my experience with them. I'll make sure to link that here if you want to go check that out. They were wonderful. I called them and they were like, I think it must have been around November of 2021 that I called them, and they were like, yeah, we can get you in like 2 weeks. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I wanted sooner, but not that soon. Like I need a little bit more time to plan than that. And so we ended up settling on March of 2022 that I would go and get the surgery. And again, I think with programs like that, they're wonderful for the right people. So for me, I was low risk. I had done a lot of education for myself on what the surgery was going to be about. I felt very confident going in that I knew what I was getting into. I also have a really great medical team. I've had the same doctor for 8 years now who was very supportive of this decision. We had been working at the same time on other health needs, and so I felt very supported going in. If you're someone who this is the first video you're ever seeing about weight loss surgery, or you know that there's maybe some mental and emotional work that needs to be done prior to having the surgery, I don't know that programs like the one I went to would be the best fit. A lot of other programs out there, you know, have it where you have to take nutrition classes and you have to go see a therapist for a while. And I think those things are so helpful and important in this journey. For me, I had already done that. So I had had a coach for nutrition. I had been to a therapist and had been working on emotional and mental issues for years up to this point. And so I just want to stress that just because that program was a good fit for me, I don't think it's a good fit for everyone. I do think that there's a lot of prep work that can be done before having bariatric surgery. And it's just important to know that this is a huge life-altering decision, and it's important to be educated and prepared for what you're signing up for. And so I know like I can be a rash decision maker where it's like, I get excited about something, I want to do it, but really take the time you need to work on yourself, to consider all your options before making that choice. What methods did I use to try to lose weight prior to having bariatric surgery? First thing I want to say, I didn't know that obesity was a disease until I looked into having weight loss surgery myself. Obesity is a disease. There's a lot of things that contribute to the disease of obesity: genetics, what we fuel our bodies with, our hormones, lots of different things. And I didn't know that. And so growing up in a diet culture world, I tried every diet out there. I did keto, I did low carb, I did celery juice diets, I did Weight Watchers, I did programs that had like those nutrition bars that they say tasted like candy bars, but they tasted like cardboard, and you eat those for like most of your meals, which looking back, it's like, oh, those were so processed, and like there's no way that that could be like holistically great for you. When I got diagnosed with PCOS, I did dairy-free, gluten-free, refined sugar-free eating for a while, and that actually was really helpful in helping get my periods back. I hadn't had them for a long time, and then once I did that, I got my period back, which was super exciting. But yeah, lots of different things that were not helpful: over exercising, under eating, the things that many people tell us to do to help. No, obesity is a much more complex disease, and I just wish that I had been given more options and a better understanding of that. The other thing that I did, I don't consider this a diet, but some of the other things that I did that were really helpful going into bariatric surgery, I learned a lot about intuitive eating, and I'll link in the description the book on that, which is really, really helpful whether you want to have surgery or not. I think that is such a helpful book that just really calls out diet culture. It helped me understand that my body is really cool and can tell me what I need when I need it, but in a very healthy way. Like I love the concept of intuitive eating. I love that book. So that was really helpful. I also learned more about eating for your metabolism. So eating whole foods that are full of nutrients, less processed stuff, learning how to make your own food, things like that. Today, after surgery even, I tend to eat a lot of that same way, where I try to limit my processed foods. I try to eat whole foods. I try to make my own things like sourdough bread. If I'm wanting a dessert or something, I try to make it from scratch, so I know all the ingredients that are going into it. So that's another thing that I started learning before surgery and that I carry through after surgery as well. So this question, what would I have done differently looking back at my journey? This is kind of a hard question because I really don't feel like I would have done anything differently, but that's kind of the person I am, where even though I make mistakes and I learn things along the way, I really value that. I don't see it as a bad thing, like, oh, I wish I wouldn't have done that because then I wouldn't have made a mistake. It's like, no, you're gonna make mistakes. I think that's maybe the biggest thing, is just, I wish I would have known more then that I was a worthy human being, no matter what I did, no matter what weight I was. I wish I would have known that. But again, that's so much of what I've learned in this journey. So it just obviously wasn't the right time for me to learn that. Some of the mistakes or things that I've heard other people wish they would have done is taking more pictures. I really took that to heart, where I pretty much took pictures of every step of the journey of pre-bariatric surgery. And I took pictures of like everything, almost nudes, just for myself, just so I could see the difference and the changes, because that is a really weird part of the journey where your body changes so quickly after surgery, and it's hard to notice it sometimes for different reasons. But having pictures that you can see side by side is really helpful in seeing more of the reality. And that part was super trippy for me because I struggled a little bit with body distortion before, but not like I did after surgery, where it was just so weird because I knew that I was losing weight, but then like I would see clothes that I used to wear and I'm like, no, like that fits me, but instead, you know, a different size would fit me. It's just a really weird experience, but it's cool and weird at the same time. Another thing too that I've heard other people say they wish they would have done differently is waited to buy like nicer clothes. So a lot of what I did early on is I did a lot of thrift shopping, a lot of Goodwill shopping, and that was really helpful just to have it connect more in my mind what my body actually fit into and what it looked like. So I tried on lots of clothes in the beginning. But yeah, I think just a more affordable way, if you can, is doing, you know, consignment shops, thrift shops, Goodwill. And for me, even stabilizing in my weight, the clothes that I like now are really different from when I stabilized. So I think just in the journey of learning who I am more, I'm just more particular and I know what I want more when it comes to clothes. Now, like I'm very particular about the fabric, about the fit of things. So I would just encourage you, like, have fun, don't overspend or spend too much money, you know, have a budget that you set aside each month if you can, do some thrifting and have fun, play around, see what feels good, what doesn't feel good, and allow yourself to have that freedom. But yeah, don't spend like a lot of money on nice clothes early on, just wait a little bit. So for those that don't know, a non-scale victory is basically a victory that doesn't revolve around your weight. It can be really easy to get tunnel visioned on the weight that you lose. And so in the bariatric community, that's something that we talk about a lot, is those non-scale victories. So what has been my biggest non-scale victory? This one is so hard because I feel like I've had so many over the last couple years in the way of things fitting better, being able to walk better, doing things that I would have never done, meeting people that I would have never met. I think the biggest NSV for me is that I'm really getting to live the life that I've always wanted to live. And it's not as simple as like, just because I lost weight, that means that I get to live the life I want to now. That's been a component of it. But having bariatric surgery has just been such a big catalyst into learning who I am and who I want to be. And it's given me the opportunity to make space for things that I really want to do, who I want to be. And so I think that's my biggest non-scale victory, is that I'm able to choose what I want to do and feel empowered by that and just really be who I am. And I've talked about this in other videos, but like crying and showing emotions, that's always been who I've been, but it was just hidden for so long. And so I just think it feels so good now to just be who I am, express who I am, and I just feel so free in so many ways. So I think that's my biggest NSV for sure. This is the $1 million question. What can you eat after weight loss surgery? So I am a big foodie. I love food. I love cooking. And that was definitely something I was worried about with having bariatric surgery. Would I still be able to eat the foods that I like? Would I still be able to enjoy food, or would I have to be very rigid and strict on myself? Before I talk about what I eat, I just want to validate that every body is different. Everybody's experience with surgery is different. That's why I really just try to share my own, because it's one out of many. And I think everybody has to find their own rhythm with things, and you can take what other people do as good jumping off points, but ultimately you know what's best for your body. And so just a little caveat with that. So I had the vertical sleeve gastrectomy, or the VSG surgery. The other common surgery is the gastric bypass. There are other ones too, but those are usually the two that people decide between. So with the sleeve, I got 80% of my stomach taken out vertically. And over time, your stomach can expand a bit more than the gastric bypass. So that's ultimately why I chose it, because my goals are to conceive and breastfeed and do all of that. I wanted to be able to have a stomach that would be able to grow a bit more and consume more food when that time comes. I've had so many different phases in my bariatric journey of what I've eaten. So of course, right after surgery, it's liquid for the first, I think my program was like 2 weeks is what they recommended. And then you can upgrade to more soft foods. So some of the liquids that I did a lot of Premier protein shakes. I did a lot of chicken and beef bone broth. There were a couple of like bariatric soup packets that I found. I did those. But yeah, the first 2 weeks were just kind of hard. The high of having the surgery had kind of worn off, and it was more of the reality, and having liquids, it was just really hard for me. Then moving into the soft phase, I did a lot of like shredded chicken, ground beef. I did yogurt. I did milk. I did sugar-free pudding, refried beans. That's like all I wanted. I wanted refried beans and shredded chicken. I did a lot of eggs. That was a much easier phase than like the liquid phase was for me. Then after that, when I could start incorporating more foods, the rhythm that I got into for quite a while was eating about 5 to 6 times a day. So I would usually have breakfast in the morning, a protein coffee, lunch, another snack, and then dinner, and then another snack. And because you can't fit too much in your stomach all at one sitting, it was really helpful for me to spread it out over time. So in the morning, I would do maybe like, and this is again, maybe from 3 months to honestly just at my 2-year mark that I have been kind of eating this way, but it's been different foods at different stages, if that makes sense. So in the morning, I might do like eggs and butter on toast. For my first snack, I might do a protein coffee. For my lunch, I could do maybe a salad with some type of high protein in it, chicken, or I might do like chicken and mashed potatoes, chicken and rice. And again, the rice and stuff I started eating a bit later, maybe about 6 months for me. And then for my afternoon snack, I might do yogurt and some berries and granola. And then for dinner, I'll usually try to do some type of protein, whether it be a steak, salmon, chicken, and then some type of carb and veggie. So like, rice and green beans or mashed potatoes and carrots, keeping it pretty easy. Now that I'm about 2.5 years post-op, I'm trying to do about 4 to 5 meals a day. And so it really just depends on like what movement I've been doing and how hungry I am. But I'm working with a coach to help support me with like specific macros. But I tend to eat the same types of things. It just might be a bigger quantity now, or for whatever reason over the last several months, like coffee hasn't been sounding very good. So I'm not really doing my protein coffees anymore and just listening to my body with that. So I would really recommend working with a nutrition coach. It would be great if it's somebody who specializes in bariatrics, but just somebody that can help guide you, because a lot of the bariatric programs, they're great at more of the standard approach that they give, but then after you reach a certain point, you kind of outgrow many of them. I won't say all of them, but I know for my body, I was not designed to eat only 800 calories a day for the rest of my life. That just would not work for me. And the activity that I have, what I do, it just would not work. And so working with someone who specializes in nutrition is so helpful to go, oh yeah, with the movement that I'm doing and what my body is naturally craving, where I'm at in my cycle, all of these things make sense of why I need to be eating this way. So I would just encourage you on that to just ask for help, get support where you can, as soon as you can, really. So what has been the hardest part of this journey? That is a good question. I think there's been a lot of really hard parts. I think what's been really hard is actually navigating relationships in my life. And I think that's just something I wasn't really expecting. I had heard, that marriages can be challenging after bariatric surgery. So I was kind of prepared for that, but also just relationships with family, with friends. I think what contributes to that is I just changed so much in such a short amount of time. And for me, this journey has felt more like a homecoming. Who I am now is who I've really always been, but it was just that part of me was hiding for a long time. And so for me, it's felt so nice where it's like almost like I'm taking off this fake costume and I'm like, oh, finally, like this is who I am. I like who I am. This is who I was created to be. But in the process of that, it can be very jolting for other people in your life. And I think that's been really hard, grieving certain relationships with people, or maybe the types of relationships with people. That's probably been one of the hardest parts. And I think just grief in general has been a really hard part in this journey. There's been a lot of grief of how things used to be in my life, grief that after losing weight, I still have problems and life is still hard. There's just been a lot of grief in this journey. So I think that's probably been the hardest part, and also one of the best parts too. Like, it's been a good practice of learning how to process grief and experience it. And I think sometimes I automatically associate hard with bad, but those hard things have been really helpful. They've been really hard, but they haven't been bad. They've been really helpful and good in my overall development as a human. So I'm grateful for that. What's been the easiest part? Honestly, I think the easiest part has been getting integrated into a community of other people who have had weight loss surgery. This has been one of the most unexpected parts of the journey for me, of what a big community of people are out there who have had similar experiences to me, who are across the world. And so especially on Instagram, that's where I've met a lot of my bariatric buddies. And there is just so much support out there now. And I know it didn't always used to be that way. People who have had surgery, you know, long before I did, talking with them and hearing like there didn't used to be this type of community, but there is now. And so I'll link some of my Bari buddies in the description. So that way, if you're looking for people to follow, all of these people that I list are super cool human beings who are just really awesome people. And so that's something that's been one of the easiest parts, is just finding people to connect with. And I was really surprised by that. So what does your exercise routine look like? So starting at the beginning of this year, so like January of 2024, I feel like that's when I had more capacity to learn more about fitness, learn more about how to move my body. I hired a personal trainer at the beginning of the year, and that's been really, really helpful. Ideally, when my body feels the best is when I'm getting movement in 4 to 5 times per week. And so what that can look like is maybe doing more weight training on Monday and Tuesday, doing yoga and something more gentle on Wednesday, and then doing more like core and body work on Thursday and Friday. That's not what it always looks like. That's just when I feel best, is when I'm doing that. Some non-negotiable movements that I do every day: I walk every day. I do a lot of like practical movements. So like, as an example, my husband and I really enjoy camping, and we have a camper. And so on the weekends that I know we're camping, I know that I'm gonna get a lot of like upper body work in, just because I'm lifting things, I'm moving things. And so I really love practical movement. Up until my 2-year mark, I was mainly walking. I was going to the gym every so often, but I think that's something I thought, is that when you hit a certain marker on your journey, you have to start working out. I just had more of like an intuitive approach with that. So walking and doing yoga and things like that felt really good. And then it's been more of strength training in this last year, and now that has felt really good. So again, listen to your own body. It's really easy to compare yourself to other people's journeys and what they decide to do. But how I try to approach it is I take it all in on what other people are doing to get good ideas, but ultimately my body will know what's best when it's best. And so I'm really excited to get into fitness more and just learn what I enjoy doing a bit more. So I think that's a way that I'll probably learn and grow in this next year, but it's really exciting. So another question I often get is, did you have any complications after surgery? I am so incredibly grateful that I did not. Surgery went really smooth. I did really well after. The only thing that I'll mention that I wouldn't say is a complication, but just something that was unexpected, is at about my 2 to 3 month marker, I started experiencing a lot of excessive vaginal bleeding, like having my period, but it was like all the time. And I'm not a doctor. I kind of explained this, I think, a bit in my bariatric story that I talk about. I think what was happening is, as my fat cells were shrinking, which, as a side note, fat cells don't ever go away unless you get them lipoed out. They just expand and decrease. In the beginning, I lost the majority of my weight in like my stomach, my hips, my thighs, my butt, and that's where I think I had the most expanded fat cells. So as I lost weight, those fat cells shrunk, and what I think was in a lot of those fat cells was excess estrogen. And so I think that just needed to get emptied out, and for my body, that was the way it did it. I was working with a medical team, like I was consulting with my doctor about this during that time, but that was kind of something that was weird and unexpected. Those first, I think it was maybe like 5 or 6 weeks of just a lot of excess bleeding. And so since that time, I've had different bouts of that as well, just as my body composition has changed, where I've had longer bleeding cycles. Now I feel like my cycles are very regular, which I'm very thankful for. Still, things disrupt them, like if I'm traveling or, extra stressed out, then I might be irregular. But for the most part, they're fairly regular now. But yeah, not so much a complication, just something that was more unexpected, I guess. Loose skin. I feel like this is such a hot topic. People always want to know, like, do you have loose skin? Is that something that is really detrimental? All of that. So I definitely have loose skin. I have it in my arms. I have it around my stomach, my thighs. I lost 100 pounds, but I think it was really helpful because I was younger when I had surgery. And so I do feel like my skin was able to kind of shrink back a little bit. However, I know that's not the case for everyone. There are a lot of people in the community who have very loose skin where it impedes on their mobility and, you know, makes it really difficult to do daily activities. I'm just very lucky. For me, the loose skin that I have, it doesn't impact my mobility. It doesn't really bother me. You know, sometimes I get a little in my head about it, like, oh, that looks kind of weird or different. But one of the things I've really tried to do since having surgery is really just appreciating my body where it's at, not constantly trying to fix it or change it, just really being present and grateful for where it's at. And I'm hopeful that when I do get pregnant, whenever the time is for that, that will help with that experience and journey, because I know that when you're pregnant, your body changes and morphs and does a lot of crazy things. And so I kind of feel more prepared going into that phase of life, because it's like, oh, I've already been there, done that, in the sense of having major body transformation and knowing kind of the mental and emotional toll that takes. And so, yes, I have loose skin. I definitely don't want to get skin removal surgery before I have kids, but it's something that I'm open to looking into in the future, but it's just not the right time for me. Maybe once I'm done having kids, I'll see how I'm feeling in my body at that time and see if it's something that's helpful or it's something that I want to do. But for right now, I'm at peace with where my body's at. Have you had any regain after your lowest weight? Yes, I have. And I know I've been kind of embarrassed to talk about it a little bit. And I know other people in the community is as well, because so much of the bariatric space is showing how much weight you've lost. And it can just be kind of like mentally weird when you gain weight back. And so I've gained about 15 pounds back from my lowest weight, but overall I'm feeling pretty good about it. Like, my clothes that I had gotten at my lowest weight, those actually all still fit pretty well. There's a couple things that like maybe are a little bit tighter or that I don't really like as much, but for the most part, I feel really good. I think I would ideally like to lose maybe a bit more fat weight, or shrink the fat cells is a more proper way to say it. But I know that like that'll just happen naturally in time as I'm focusing in on eating and fueling my body, as I'm focusing in more on fitness and moving my body more. So it sometimes definitely messes with my head, where I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I've, gained 15 pounds back. But then it's like, I just think about all that I've accomplished and all that I've done. And sometimes that helps, sometimes it doesn't. But yeah, regain is a very normal thing. And there's lots of different ways to get support. I think that's the biggest thing that I've seen in the community, is that it can feel very like shameful to gain weight back. But again, something that I just try to remind myself of is that like, I'm a worthy human being. No matter how much weight I've lost or gained, that doesn't matter. And I can still work on improving myself and going, yeah, like I think I did feel a bit better in certain ways when I weighed a little bit less. What are some things I can do to support my body to help with that? And there's lots of different options. There's GLP-1 medications that I've heard have been very helpful for people. I personally don't have experience for myself with that. There's working with a coach and working on your nutrition and your fitness goals. There's lots of different things that you can do, but I think the biggest thing for me that I try to do is I approach it coming from a place of what's going to support my body, not just my physical body, but my mental and emotional well-being as well, and just try to focus on those things. The last question I'll end with is, what advice do you have for someone who's considering bariatric or weight loss surgery? I think the biggest thing is just right here, right now, acknowledge that you are a worthy and loved human being. And that's not going to change. Whether you have surgery or not, whether you lose weight or you don't, you are such a loved and valuable human being because you're here, because you were created. And I think it's just really important to remember that. And when you're approaching bettering your life in any way, try to just approach it with self-love and self-compassion, and coming from the perspective of, thank you, body, for all that you've done for me and for getting me this far. What's going to feel most supportive to you? What's going to be most helpful? And just allowing your intuition to guide you on that. Again, super helpful to hear from experts, to hear the research and all of that. But I think so much of what we've lost as a society is being in tune with ourselves. And I promise your body will tell you what it needs. And for me, it comes in many different ways. It'll be different, like memories I think of, or pictures that I get in my head, or it'll just be like a feeling in my body of like thinking of bariatric surgery, if that's the right choice. It's like, oh, my body just felt like relaxed and at peace. And so really tune into yourself and come at it from a place of self-love and not self-punishment. And just know that you're not alone. There are options, and plug into the community. Oh, that's something I wish I would have done differently looking back now. I wish I would have plugged into the bariatric community before, when I was just looking into surgery. There is so much wisdom to be shared, and I just wish I would have talked with more people who had had surgery before. So little bonus tip, I guess, for you. But, reach out. I love talking with people and hearing their stories, and I'm always happy to answer questions. And so please reach out to me on Instagram, through my email, however you want to get a hold of me. I love talking with people and just sharing my experience. But I guess the biggest takeaway advice I have for you is, what's best for your body, and trust it. And it's a process to do that, but trust it. Well, thank you, friends, for joining me today. I hope this was a helpful video. I want to do more of these, so if you have any questions that I didn't answer, feel free to put them in the comments, let me know, and I'd be happy to do another video like this. If you're not already, make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel. I post videos often that are similar to this and more of just my life after weight loss surgeries. So make sure you subscribe and turn on that notification bell so you can see when those new ones come out. And in case you didn't hear it enough in this video, I just want to say it again, that you are a loved and worthy human being, and I'm just so grateful that you're in this world. Even if I don't know you on a personal level, the fact that our paths have crossed in this way, I'm just very grateful for you. So I will see you in my next video.